Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Benjamin, and today we're going to be talking about our cybersecurity awareness policies and procedures. The purpose of this training is to stop any kind of cybersecurity attacks. This includes stopping them from the get-go, as well as minimizing any kind of damage. A lot of what we're going to be talking about when it comes to our policies does have to do with controlling and mitigating, so just keep that in mind as we proceed. All right, let's begin. All right, so we're going to start with email security. Emails are actually the most susceptible to cybersecurity attacks. Statistics show that 90% of the successful attacks come from email threats. Now, because of this, there are different categories, and we're going to go over each one of them individually. They include phishing, spoofing, advanced fees, and malware. Now, although we're going to go over them individually, it's important to note that there's a few things that we can all do to make sure that we're not going to get attacked by them, or successfully attacked, better said. The first is always to review the sender before going on any links or before replying. And the second is checking the URLs. So a lot of times there are going to be attachments, whether it's going to be embedded into the email or it's going to be a link that sends you over to the attachment. By hovering above the attachment, you'll be able to see the URL or some data or information about this link that's going to send you to. And that typically is going to give you a good indicator of what the link is and help you stop from clicking on anything that shouldn't be clicked on. All right, now let's go and define these different types of scams. We're going to start with phishing. Now, phishing, although spelled with a PH, is very similar to regular phishing. It's when another party is looking to obtain information from you, specifically when it comes to your login information or your financial information. This might come from someone acting as a bank or someone pretending to be IT asking you for some information. Now, it's important to note over here in CPG, no one will ever ask you for your password or your credit card information. If you ever think that someone is phishing you or aren't sure, the best way to retaliate against it is speaking with the person either over the phone or in person to avoid any kind of miscommunication. There are times where your supervisor will be asking you for some information or someone from management, so just make sure to verify who the person is before sending any kind of sensitive information. The next is spoofing. So spoofing specifically occurs when someone is mimicking uh, another person, and this could be done for any variety of reasons. There are times when a scammer might be spoofing and phishing, but regardless, it's important to know that there are differences in them. With spoofing, the best way to ensure that you're not getting fooled by this is by checking the email address that the person is sending it to. There are times where the name is going to appear as if it's coming from Benjamin Azenka, but then if you see the actual email address, you'll see it's coming from a different person. So just make sure to check the email address to ensure that you're not being spoofed. The third we have here is called advanced fees. And this is specifically a check fraud. It's when someone is trying to get you to move money around. I've actually had this before where we had an administrator in the company who got an email from the quote unquote CEO. The CEO asked the administrator to go to the local 7-Eleven and pick up a few gift cards for him. He said it was supposed to be a gift or some special surprise, so not to tell anyone. This is an example of advance fee. It's very important not to fall for this. It's also important not to accept money from any kind of um, advance fee kind of scam because it might be money laundering. And finally, the last one we have here is a malware scam. And this is when someone is embedding any kind of virus or malware onto the email, having you open or download a specific item. The safest kind of things to click on or documents to look at through email or PDFs. Once you start getting Word documents or even PowerPoint documents that have to be downloaded onto the computer itself, they have more of a possibility to contain malware. To avoid downloading any malware, it's important to never download something without knowing who the sender is and verifying that it's them. So again, using the things that we learned from the phishing and the spoofing types of scams. So just as a summary, I listed over here our protocols whenever there's a potential scam. If you have received a scam email, please make sure to forward it over to support@myitcrew.com. They are our third-party IT vendor, as well as copy myself, Benjamin, at compactgroup.com. If you already clicked on an email's link or suspect of any kind of malware, please make sure to go onto our HCM2Go system and complete an incident report. This allows us to assess the kind of threat and make sure to put our focus on it. If you don't know whether a sender is a scammer or not, we spoke about this when it comes to spoofing, please make sure to verify them either via phone or in person. Lastly, it's important to never share any personal information or company information to others outside of the company, and even those who are inside, make sure it is them. No one in the company, not IT or management, will ever be asking you for passwords to your login, and we do not allow share logins. We expect everyone to be able to follow these instructions, as these instructions are critical to our operation and are required both by our IT crew as well as by certification programs that we're in. So let's discuss password security. I know I have a lot of different logins, and I've been guilty of this sometimes, where instead of using different passwords for different logins, I'll use the same password, whether it'll be the same password as my personal email or just to another login that I have related to the company. Now, this is an extreme security threat. By doing this, you are allowing hackers to not get you in one spot, but get you everywhere, as well as try different passwords into different portals, knowing that you're using the same password. This is critical and something that we need to try to avoid. There are different ways around stopping to reuse passwords, and we're going to talk about some of those ways later on. Additionally, it's important not to use an oversimplified password. Things like welcome@one, although are very convenient, end up being very easy to hack into. Therefore, try to use things that are longer, as well as add specific kind of special characters, whether it's a £, a exclamation point, or something like that. Here we listed some do's and don'ts. So it's important not to email yourself your passwords. Emails are hackable, and what we don't want is someone to gain access to your emails and then gain access to all your other logins. We also don't want to use the browser's password manager. One of the big hacks that happens is with malware that they're able to gain access to your screen and access to your computer. And when doing so, being able to access your computer browser, they'll be able to see all your different passwords, which is obviously not helpful. We also don't want to share logins. I know at times we'll be working in a team, and instead of creating different logins for different people, we'll use one login together. We don't want to do this. This is potential for a leak, as well as difficulty in controlling who has what logins. What we do want to do is we want to use MyGlue. So I think everyone already received an email from MyGlue, whether it was Tuesday or Wednesday, discussing how to log in and giving you a password. MyGlue is an encrypted and secure password manager, and we're going to be discussing that a little bit later on. We also want to change our password every few months. This allows us to make sure the passwords aren't being hacked and that we're continuously updating and securing our logins. And lastly, as I mentioned before, we want to make complex passwords. So that includes adding special characters and numbers to increase difficulties. When it comes to web browsing, this is another very high potential risk. We want to make sure to use our ad blockers always. Some ad blockers have extreme malware, which even if we have cybersecurity and different antiviruses on the computer itself, might be able to surpass those. We also want to make sure that the websites that we're using are safe. Checking for an HTTPS preface to a link is important, as those are typically the more secure websites. Before clicking on any links, like we mentioned by emails, we should be hovering over the URLs to make sure that links are corresponding to the pages that we want to open. We also don't want to be sharing any documents outside of our OneDrive or our shared drives. This includes Dropbox or third-party clouds that aren't CPGs. Lastly, we do not permit any external hard drive or USB drives unless given special permission. So if you do need to use a USB or a hard drive, please let us know in advance so we can categorize it and catalog it. To test our weak points and liabilities, CPG has been doing a risk assessment, looking at where we're most susceptible. We did a few email tests to see who would click on spamming emails. Unfortunately, the test has shown a higher than acceptable percentage of employees clicking on emails and its links. Therefore, we're trying to put in this training into place, as well as add some protocols to ensure that we don't do this in the future. I'm sure many of you noticed by now we have an external email notice whenever an email is being given or brought in from an external user. And that's another way that CPG is trying to protect our employees from clicking on things that we shouldn't be clicking on. Password encryption is another weak point of ours, where we're currently having computers store our passwords, as well as using external password managers that aren't encrypted. And with that, we're going to be trying to use MyGlue that we'll speak about soon. Lastly, our cybersecurity policies haven't been written out fully. So CPG has created an extensive documentation library of our policies and procedures when it comes to cybersecurity. So I mentioned MyGlue earlier. MyGlue is a password manager and encryption software. All users were given an email, hopefully whether it was on Tuesday or Wednesday. If you didn't receive an email from MyGlue giving you access, please let me know. That way I can set it up for you. MyGlue acts very similar as the Chrome password manager, but is more encrypted and safe. So please make sure to import all of your passwords from Chrome onto MyGlue. That way it's stored correctly. Once you're done doing that, make sure to delete anything stored under Chrome. Again, it is a cybersecurity threat. Starting August 15th, all users will be blocked out of the password manager extension through Chrome or through Edge or whatever other kind of browser you're using on a CPG computer. So please make sure to migrate all your information before then. MyGlue also has an extension, so that will be allowed in case you want to autofill your passwords or anything like that. CPG takes cybersecurity very seriously and wants to make sure that any breaches are minimized as much as possible. We're working with our IT vendor as well as outside consultants to do everything that we can to make sure that our data and our employees are as safe as possible. If you can see on the right, these are the different steps that we're taking, and we mentioned some of them already. If you have any questions regarding our cybersecurity measures or any questions in general regarding IT, please feel free to reach out to me or support@myitcrew.com. Well, that is about it for this presentation. I'm going to be attaching a PDF with a few questions for you to fill out. Please make sure to fill that out and return it to me by the end of next week. All right, I appreciate your time and hope you have a great rest of your day.